I'm ready.
Here we go.
Okay.
Welcome back, everyone. This is SehoPod. I think this is episode 22. At this time of filming, I have actually not uploaded episode 21, which was filmed with this exact setup. Mm-hmm. So this is the second time we're doing this setup. And I like it because the view is nice and it's a nice room.
Yeah.
I'm here with Paige Hackett.
Mm-hmm.
Paige, how are you doing today?
I'm amazing. How are you doing, Seho?
I'm doing really well. I said just before that I'm ready to go home tomorrow.
Yes.
Are you ready to go home?
I'm very ready to go home.
Yes. And home is not too far away for you.
No. It's
hour, right?
No, it's like 40 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Not bad at all.
Nice.
I know I'm going home tonight, so
nice.
I'm ready to get out of here.
What will you do at home?
My brother is doing a year in Seattle, and he's coming home. I haven't seen him since winter break, so I'm gonna just probably spend time with him and my family and come back for the marathon on Monday. But yeah, I'm excited. I'm ready.
Let's go.
Yeah.
I know Paige from summer orientation session 3.
Yes.
Which Paige also was at.
Mm-hmm.
And then I did not see or remember Paige for a long time. And then I saw her in O'Neill studying for finals at the end of our freshman year.
Yes.
And I had just looked at the photo I took, or a photo I took from orientation. Mm-hmm. And it was a big group photo. And lo and behold, Paige was in that photo. So then I walked up to Paige and I was like, Paige, right? And then we talked for like some minutes.
Yeah.
And then fast forward to this school year, and we were both in the 48 hours sophomore council.
Yes.
Which was a great time.
Very great time.
Awesome. And at some point in this school year, maybe it was even last semester when you asked if like you could be on the podcast.
Yeah, we were on our coffee date and you were telling me about it.
Yes.
And I was like, that sounds so awesome. I would love to be a part of it if you'd have me. And now
we're here.
After many attempts.
We're finally here. Exactly.
Yes.
So now we're here and gonna talk.
Yes.
Anything you have to add to that?
Not really. I do remember when we met at orientation. I feel like you were one of the first people I met, and we were up in the lounge in 2150, and you're so right. We saw each other around, but we didn't really see each other until a year later almost. It was just like random O'Neill. It was like 11 p.m. during finals. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm really happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
Of course. Paige, please tell me your life story.
My life story. Well, I grew up in Massachusetts and I loved it. I had a great upbringing.
Have you lived in the same town your whole life?
The same house.
Same
whole life, same town. I had an older brother, or I have an older brother, Kyle. And we are 2 years apart, but we're 3 grades apart. And so we were really close growing up. My parents are awesome. I really had a very simple, happy upbringing. And I loved living in Massachusetts. People ask me all the time why I stayed so close to home for college, and I was just like, I love it here. I never wanted to leave.
What do you love about Massachusetts?
I think growing up, I was a skier. And so I love the winter for that reason, but I also loved the summer. So I loved like the seasons. I didn't want to go somewhere warm for college. And I just love Boston. I think it's really cool how it's this big city, but it feels so small. And I just loved it here. I didn't want to go far. I thought about it. I applied to schools far away, and then still ended up at BC. But yeah, I love it here. And yeah, I had a very good childhood growing up until, high school. And then everything kind of changed in high school after that. But since then, it's just been full of happiness still, so yes.
Tell me more about before high school. How are you similar and different to how you are now?
Oh my gosh, when I was growing up, I was really talkative, but I was shy. I was really good at making friends, but I had ADHD my whole life, and I didn't get diagnosed until I was 17, which is pretty late to be diagnosed with ADHD. So I had been struggling with that my whole life. I didn't know it. So I was always really talkative. I got in trouble a lot, like with my teachers because of it. But I really loved like making friends, but I was super, super insecure. I was very nervous, and kind of like awkward. Like I just wasn't super comfortable in my own skin for a while. And now that's completely changed. And now I don't think I'm necessarily an extrovert, but I'm definitely much more outgoing than I was when I was a kid. But I've always been super talkative. And since I found out I had ADHD and I got put on meds for it, I became even more talkative because I was able to like actually regulate it and know when is the time to be talking and not in the middle of class. But I also was not a very good student growing up. And since then, I've become a much better student too. But yeah, growing up, I was very, very awkward, very kind of like uncomfortable. I wasn't very good. Like my mom ordered for me at restaurants like until way too late in life, just because I felt so awkward all the time. And then I think it was really COVID that kind of changed that for me. Just like being in isolation for so long, I really just was like, okay, now I'm gonna, be outgoing and kind of get a little bit more comfortable. I also think that kind of just happens when you're growing up, but for me, it was like all of middle school. I was just kind of like a super awkward kid, I guess. That makes sense. Yeah.
Does any of that awkwardness still like linger today?
Not really. I don't feel, especially coming to college too, I think it's kind of like you naturally, if you're an awkward person, you come to college and you can't be awkward because you're meeting a whole new group of people. So I think that really helped, and I definitely do not think I'm awkward now. I also think I think of myself as like an introvert only because I'm really good at being alone, but I don't always like it. Like I love to be outgoing and I love to talk to people, but I can also have that balance between those two ideals. And I think when I was growing up, I didn't have that. I was always around people. Sure. Yeah.
Okay. Tell me more about what changed in high school.
Yeah, so during COVID, I actually, contrary, I think, to most people, really enjoyed quarantine. I think the first time we were in quarantine, I had just turned 15, and I think I really was able to like do all of the things that I had always wanted to do, and I could just like, I was so good at amusing myself during COVID, so I really loved it, and I got to like do all these things and like, discover who I was during that time, and I really enjoyed it. And then sophomore year, it was kind of like that weird like hybrid situation for most people, and I didn't really like that. I felt very kind of like just uncomfortable for me to not be doing the same thing all the time. And then fast forward to the summer before my junior year, that was like the peak time for me. I think I really kind of fell into who I was. I got really much more confident. I stopped being so like awkward at that time, and I started to really like grow up. I think I really grew up when I was in quarantine. And it was like my brother had left for college too at that time, so I was now an only child, which was weird for me, but it almost gave me a little more freedom to kind of like do what I wanted. And then at the beginning of junior year, I got diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. And after that, my whole life just completely changed.
Could you walk me through that? Like how you found out and like what your initial, you and your family's like initial response reaction to that was?
Yeah, so it was July of 2021.
So going into your junior year.
Going into my junior year, yep. I was supposed to get my tonsils removed because I honestly don't really know why, but it was just like something I was doing at the time. And I had gone to the doctor and he felt my neck and he felt like a little like nodule, like a little bump, and he was like, it's probably fine, but you should just get an ultrasound so we can make sure we can like go forward with the surgery. So I got the ultrasound done. It came back. He called and was like, everything looks totally good, nothing to worry about. And I remember leaving that appointment, or like being in the car right after, and I was just like sobbing because I just had this like gut feeling. Like I knew something was wrong. But I just was like, he said it's fine, so I got over it. And then from that point on, for the next like, I want to say month and a half, my health just deteriorated so rapidly. It was like that. The first thing that happened was I got ulcers in my mouth that were so big they kind of like pushed on nerves in my face. And so I lost feeling to like part of my face. I at the time was a dance teacher, and so I was holding, kids all the time. And I held a kid one day for like 10 minutes, and the next day I had like a bruise that just wrapped around my entire body, this like crazy bruise, and it was just like bruising everywhere. I lost like 20 pounds in like 2 or 3 weeks. I would probably eat around like 300 calories a day. Like I was I got very sick looking at the time, and I was also so fatigued, like to the point where I remember in early August I was on Cape Cod. I was with some of my friends for a week, and they were all like up and like, I don't even know, like playing spike ball or something, and I just remember laying on the beach and being like, I can't get up. Like, what is wrong with me? I cannot move. And I was just in so much pain. And then finally, I want to say like maybe end of August, like visible tumors started to be present on my body. It was mainly my neck. I had like a tumor that was like you could very visibly see it. My voice started to change, so I couldn't really talk, couldn't really breathe. It just like very, very quickly got worse. And then it was September 1st. It was actually my first day of school. So what would have been my first day of school, I woke up at like, I want to say like 3 in the morning. And mind you, for the past month, I had been going to doctors over and over again, begging for someone to like listen to me and hear me. And I knew something was wrong, and everyone would just, I got diagnosed with I think like 6 different things that obviously weren't happening to me, but I was like this medical mystery. No one could figure it out. And I kept saying, something's wrong, I know something's wrong. But no one listened to me. And then finally, that morning, I woke up at like 2 or 3, and I couldn't like lay down because I had a tumor that was the size of a football in my stomach. And when I would lay down, it would kind of like push on all of my like organs in my body, and that would just be, that's awful pain. So I remember going into my mom's room and being like, I'm done. Like, we got to figure this out. So she took me to the emergency room, and even then I went back and forth from my house like 3 times before finally it was like, I think it was 2 days later, September 3rd, I went into the hospital, and like at this point I was like very, very sick. And finally it's the doctor in the emergency room. I didn't think it was cancer. Like I knew it was, but I didn't like actually think it was real. My parents definitely didn't. And then I remember I was in the emergency room, and this doctor came in, and he was just saying, we're going to try and get you up for a scan. And I said to him, I was like, okay, like I'm really worried right now. He said, I want to know what your questions are and what you're the most worried about. And I remember I said, I have no questions, but I'm really worried this could be cancer. And he like sat at the end of my bed and just said to me, I'm really worried this could be cancer too. And that was the first time I remember, and my parents were both in the room, and that was the first time I remember hearing that word in reference to me. And I was like banging my head on the wall next to me after that. Like I think I was trying to like wake myself up. And I kind of just didn't really believe it, but I was also like, I don't know, it's this weird feeling that I can't really describe, where you can't spend your time necessarily like worrying, because it's like you're just in fight or flight at that point. So they gave me a bunch of medicine to kind of calm me down, and I remember my dad called my brother, who was at BC, and said, you need to come to the hospital right now, get in an Uber. So we got in an Uber, and I remember he came because my parents didn't know what was going to happen. And he was there, and I was really confused why he was there. And I think it was because I didn't really know how bad it was at the time. And then they took me up for a scan, and they got like 70% of the way done with the scan. And they took me right out, and they brought me right up to the ICU. And then I don't really have any memory for the next 2 weeks. I've been told things. I have very spotty memory. But basically on that scan, they had seen that the tumor that was in my neck was kind of pressing on, my windpipe, like how I breathe, and it was very, very small. And so they were really worried that if it kept growing, it would close.
Yeah.
And they needed to get a tube in. And so they brought me up to the ICU, and then I think it was September 7th, so I was at like 4 days later, they diagnosed me. At the time, they thought it was stage 3. Later found out it was stage 4, Burkitt's lymphoma. It had spread from that huge tumor in my abdomen. It was in my spine, my bone marrow. It was in my neck. Somehow it was in my face, and then in my brain. And so once we got that diagnosis, I think it was almost relieving, because the survival rate is very high. It's 97%. So I think for my family, it was relieving at that time, because if it had been something else, it wouldn't have been that high. But that was like best case scenario, ironically, if you could even imagine. But at the time, that was kind of like good news, that it was treatable. It was really bad, but it could be treated. But I have no memory of being actually told I have cancer, which is super confusing and weird, but I have no memory. I thought I had a memory, like I thought I remembered it, and then actually kind of recently, I was talking to my mom about it, and she said, that's not what happened. And sometimes I think, especially with me, I went into something called ICU psychosis. It's basically like acute brain failure, where all the medications and the environment you're in, and just like how sick the people are in the ICU, you just have complete memory loss, hallucinations, complete delusions, agitation. It's like this crazy thing that happens to a lot of people, especially in pediatrics, because I was 16 at the time. So yeah, and that's kind of how I found out. And it was I think my reaction to it was like, my body was trying to like survive and live, so I couldn't really be worried or like angry or frustrated. I just kind of had to be like, okay, this is happening, and this is what I'm gonna do about it. For my family and my friends, it was a lot harder, I think, for them than it was for me, which is kind of weird. But when it's you trust yourself, and your capability of your strength. And when it's other people, it's a lot harder to kind of think, okay, can they do this? Are they going to be able to do this? So I think for my friends and my family, it was a lot more difficult. And I couldn't imagine going through what they went through at that time. Because for me, I was kind of shielded from a lot of it, mainly because I was on so many medications that made me kind of not really realize at the time. But yeah, that's kind of like how I found out, and it was very quick. It was very, very quick. A lot of people, it's like over a longer period of time where they're struggling, but for me it was very quick, which good and bad. But yeah, that's kind of the story of how it came to be, I guess.
What was your family's and like friends' reactions?
So I actually didn't tell anyone. My parents told everyone, mainly because I was too sick. I remember those few days from when I went to the ICU for the first time to when I was officially diagnosed, those 4 days, I think most people in my life knew what was happening. Because, you know, it was pretty evident what it was at that time. My parents, I think, were kind of in disbelief. And a lot of my friends really struggled with it because they had known that I had been struggling for a really long time, and I obviously was like telling them about it, and I think that was really hard for them to be like, oh, she was struggling and no one was listening to her and telling her it was okay. A lot of my friends have told me kind of how they found out. My mom had like a text chain with a lot of my close friends' parents, and then like my family and family friends and stuff. And so she would kind of like send updates just so that because, you know, we had people flooding texts and everything and phone calls. And so the close people in my life were on that. And so she kind of, you know, texted it out to people and then called the people that she felt like deserved a call. And most of how people found out was it was mostly moms, like their moms, you know, coming and saying, you need to come home to my friends and them telling them. But I think it was kind of a similar reaction for most people, because, you know, I couldn't imagine. I mean, I've never experienced that, but I think for most people it was just kind of like they were in disbelief. Like, I think I had known for a really long time that I was really sick, but a lot of other people didn't realize it. So most people were just kind of in shock, and I think obviously really upset and scared. I think it was a lot of fear. And when I woke up from this like kind of psychosis that I was in, like a day later, my mom finally let me have my phone because she had taken it from me because I was so out of it. And she let me have my phone, and I'll literally never forget. I looked at my phone, and I'm not kidding you, I had thousands and thousands of messages. Like, I was scrolling and scrolling and scrolling, and it was the most amazing thing. Like, my support was instant and absolutely incredible. But immediately I was kind of confused because I didn't know that everyone knew. So I was kind of like, what's happening, you know? And then obviously word just kind of spreads naturally. And my mom, as far as like my immediate family, like my cousins and uncles, kind of said to my aunt, like, can you tell people and update people, because my mom was just trying to take care of me, so she couldn't do it that. But so those people I don't really know, but at least the close people in my life, the people who did tell me their reaction, it was mainly, I think, a lot of just like fear and like uneasy and like shock. I don't think a lot of people really realized until I even came back and told them. I don't think they really realized how bad it was.
Do you wish that summer of 2021,
Mm-hmm.
before you were diagnosed, like, do you wish that you could have expressed more outwardly about how sick you were?
I don't think so. I think it's really hard to believe, you know, someone saying, I think I'm really, really, really sick, when, you know, I was a major hypochondriac before this. I think that was a part of it, but I think I did as much as I could. I think a big part of my recovery mentally from this has been kind of being like, okay, like, I found out when I found out, and I dealt with it, and I'm here, and I'm grateful for that. I try not to kind of think about, you know, obviously if that nodule that was in my neck that he had felt in July was a tumor. And that ultrasound, my oncologist ended up looking at that ultrasound later on and said, that is so evidently a tumor. And if they had just saw that, we could have started you. You would have been stage 1. You wouldn't have, you know, lost your hair, been like, none of that. But they kind of train you almost in a way, like me and my family, to be like, okay, we caught it when we caught it. We dealt with it. We're dealing with it. And that's it. Don't dwell on, you know, what ifs, if that makes sense.
Yeah, makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Walk me through then September going forward.
So I ended up moving out of the ICU, and I moved to the oncology floor. And I was actually really, really nervous to go down there because that was like when it became real. But I moved down there, and they have kind of like a separate, I was at Boston Children's, which is like the most amazing hospital in the world for kids. But they have kind of like a separate area at Children's where if you're like a long-term patient, you kind of stay because it's isolated from a lot of the other rooms, and the rooms are a lot bigger. So patients who are there long-term get to go into those rooms. So I was obviously a long-term patient, so I got to move into a nicer room that was kind of like isolated, which was really nice. But I don't really have a lot of memory from September. It's very spotty. I started chemo almost right away, and I did 7 total rounds of chemo and lived in the hospital throughout all of it. But I really didn't like realize like, okay, and now I'm getting chemo until October. September was very kind of like foggy, and it was a time where I really just had to be recovering. I didn't really have the time to like be up worrying and freaking out and you know, trying to understand. It was a lot of like, okay, you need to just try and like survive. But September was it felt very long for me because I moved from the ICU to the oncology floor. I was so nervous, and then the second I got there, I was like, this place is amazing. The people there, it's just a different world down there. And at the time, I still had a full head of hair. I mean, my hair was like way longer than it is now. It was like down to here. My hair is naturally like super dark, it was curly. And everyone around me didn't have any hair. So I felt very like I didn't belong. Like I felt very just kind of uncomfortable being there almost, which is kind of ironic because you think about it in the opposite way, where if I had had no hair and was not living in the hospital, I would have felt weird. But it was like the norm was to not have any hair, and I had a full head of hair, and I wasn't really walking at the time or eating or like drinking anything. I was pretty much sleeping for 20 hours a day mostly, which is because it's what my body needed to do. And those hours that I was awake, I don't really remember much. My friends got together all the time and made me posters and wrote me cards, and I got so many gifts, but I don't remember opening any of them. I remember much later on, my mom kept them all because she kind of knew I wasn't going to remember, and then I got to read them all later on, which was like so amazing. But yeah, September was, I don't really know because I was so out of it, and I'm honestly kind of grateful, I think, that I don't remember most of it because it was such a hard time. My mom went on medical leave from her job, and she kind of became my caregiver, and her and my dad would kind of split their time. Being in oncology at Children's, you have to have someone stay with you overnight. So my parents would switch off, but my mom was there more often because, you know, like I needed to like shower, and I wanted to do that with my mom, obviously not my dad. And my dad was still working, so I spent a lot of time with them. And yeah, it was kind of, I think, mostly the time where my parents were really kind of going into their role of like caregiver. And I was kind of just sitting back, like letting them get used to it so that they could be ready to let me get used to it and that they could be there for me. But I think September was really the time where I was kind of just like almost like sitting back and letting the medicine work and help me. Alleviating my pain was a big part of it. And then it was mainly for my parents to really wrap their head around it, I think. Yeah.
So you went through the rounds of chemo.
Mm-hmm.
You were on that floor. Just looking forward, how long was the like when were you cancer free?
So I finished chemo in January, the 16th. So it was like around 5 months ish.
Okay, cool. Yeah. Yeah, just tell me more about that, you know, that period before
I found out. I think before I was cancer free, so in early October, I shaved my head and I loved it. Like, I was so done with my hair because I knew that I was going to lose it.
Yeah.
And the anticipation of knowing that your hair is going to fall out is really, really difficult.
Yeah.
And so and it doesn't fall out right away too. That whole month it wasn't really falling out. And then right when October started, I started my second round of chemo, which was like the second and third rounds are like the big, intense rounds of chemo. The first one's like a little kind of like a preliminary thing. And then the next two and three are like the really, really tough ones. And so when I started my second round, they were kind of like, this is when we suspect most of your hair to come out. And I was so ready. I was like, I also, like, to put it into perspective, I couldn't really sit upright. Like, I think I was like 90, like I was like very small. Like I had no muscle. I hadn't walked in months. Like you lose so much muscle from that. I wasn't eating, so I was tiny. I was like frail, so I couldn't really walk. Like getting up, you have to shower at least once every 2 days if you have a central line, which I did. Like you have to do that. That's protocol. So I had to do it. And getting up and like taking a shower with my long, thick, curly hair was like so tolling on me. Like my body just like, my mom would wash it for me. And then one of the nurses would like braid my hair, and even just sitting up for that long was super difficult for me. And I was just like ready to be done. I was like, I'm done with this. And I remember the first day it kind of started to fall out. I was like, I'm done. I want to shave it. Like, I'm done with this. So I cut it to like a little pixie cut. And then I woke up the next day and it had it was all over me. And I just like hated it. I was like, I'm done. So I shaved it, and I felt great after I shaved my head because I finally like fit in. It was kind of like, not like a power move, but I felt
it's a power move.
At Children's, for a lot of the younger kids, they called it a warrior symbol, which was really cute, where it was like, that's a known thing about cancer patients is that you lose your hair. And so I felt like I had been kind of fighting this identity of like a sick patient, like a sick person, and also like I still had my hair. And finally I was just able to lean into it at that point. Also, the day I shaved my head was the day that I put it on my Instagram. I put the photo of me right afterwards on my Instagram, and so that was kind of like the reveal. Like, not everyone had known at that point. It was mainly just my close people, and then that was kind of like the big reveal, and so I got like this whole new support system from that too. So I actually got to go home in October for like 2 days, and my whole journey with cancer was very taken over by complications because my disease was so advanced. I had like everything. I had, kidney stones, blood clots, I had everything, which was the main reason is why I was so sick. So I got to go home for like 2 days and I hated it. I felt very uncomfortable when I was home. I still wasn't walking. My dad had to like help carry me like up the stairs. Like it was very dehumanizing to be at home and confusing for me to kind of go in and out of this identity. And so I ended up having to go back to the hospital, and I think the next period of time for me, or when I went home actually, I got to see people, which was kind of like the big part for me. I was home for like maybe 2 or 3 days, I think, and I was super immunocompromised, so I couldn't really see anyone unless they were wearing a mask, I was wearing a mask, and we were like not even near each other. But my mom and my oncologist knew that it was good for me to see people and to, let them see me. So I think I saw like some of my friends would like come over, and then I went to my dance studio, and I didn't tell anyone I was going except for my best friend Lauren, who I met Lauren when I was 8 days old. So Lauren's been like my sister my whole life. We live like 8 houses away from each other. And my mom and my oncologist was like, you can touch her. Like, you can go near her and that's it. So she like helped me walk into my dance studio, and I surprised everyone there. And they were all like like it was almost like they thought it wasn't real that I was there, because no one even knew I was home. And that was really awesome to like see everyone. But I was also like, I need to like stop giving myself these glimpses of what I'm missing and just kind of like submit back into that like I'm doing this kind of mindset. So I went back into the hospital, and I basically spent the next, until I found out I was cancer free, really, in the hospital. And I got better. Every round of chemo I got better, but it's really confusing to willingly take it, like get chemo, when you know it's just going to make you sicker. It's like, oh, I have this disease that's killing me, and I'm going to take this drug that's going to feel like it's killing me even more, but it's actually saving my life. It's a really weird idea.
Yeah.
And so that started to really bother me. I didn't like that. I was confused by it. But I did the second and third round of chemo, and then I did my fourth round of chemo, and then I think it was right after I did my fifth round, I got re-scanned. And they did the scan, and I got to go home for Christmas. I went home for like 24 hours, but they were like, we're going to try and get you home for Christmas. I did not want to go. I wanted to stay in the hospital. I was in the hospital for Thanksgiving. I was like, this is okay. Like, I want to stay in the hospital. I feel safer there. But they were like, you're going home. So I went home, and my mom was driving me home. And we stopped to I was on, like, I could only eat soft foods. So I got to eat a lot of ice cream. So we stopped to get ice cream, and my mom went in to get it. And I remember she came back into the car, and she just, like, was so, like, amped up. I was like, what's happening? And she was like, she just called and said that you have no cancer cells left in your body. And I was like, what? What do you mean? Like, what do you mean? Because that was December 23rd, or no, sorry, it was before that. But it was late December. So it was like not even 3 months since the diagnosis. It was gone like that. And I was like, what? Like, what do you mean it's gone? But I still knew I had to finish chemo, so it didn't really feel like this joyous, like, I'm cancer-free moment that most people have, because I still have to do chemo. And I knew they had kind of prepared me for the fact that when you have no more cancer in your body and you get chemo, there's no more bad cells for the drug to kind of go after, so it just attacks you instead. You have to do it because you have to complete the regimen. But so I knew that the next 2 rounds of chemo were going to be really, really tough. So it wasn't a super, like, obviously it was a really joyous moment. It was incredible. But for me, that's what I could really think about. Yeah. And then I finished my last 2 rounds. They were really, really, really tough. I was very confused. It was kind of like September, where I wasn't really there. I don't really remember much. I was sleeping all the time. I also was on morphine for a really long time, and so as I went off that, I started to get withdrawal, and so that was another thing I was going through at the same time as it, and that was really hard. And those next few weeks were really tough. But then I finished chemo, and I was like done. And I remember when I got home, I was like, what just happened? I was like, oh my God, what is happening? I was so confused. But it was so quick. Like, that's not a lot of time to go through something like that. So it was very confusing for me to kind of have all that happen, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, I'm supposed to go back to normal. It was weird. But after I finished chemo, that was a very joyous moment for me. And I went home, and my parents had set up like this like parade of like everyone I love came, and I like was totally surprised, and like the police from my town were like there. It was really cool. But yeah, so that was kind of my life-changing event, I guess. But yeah.
Thanks for being so open.
Of course, that. Yeah.
Could you tell me more about the transition back to quote-unquote normal?
Yeah, so I give, talks, speeches, little guest lectures all the time about my story. And what I always say is that's when the actual fight began for me, was after. I consider like the month after I finished chemo, that month of time to be the absolute lowest I've ever been. It's honestly hard for me to even like describe it because, you know, you have this really, really life-changing, horrible thing that happens to you. And you're all of a sudden it stops. And, you know, there's like so many aspects to my recovery, but physically it was really hard. I didn't have any muscle, so I would always like forget that I didn't, so I would try and like just run and it wouldn't work and my legs would just buckle under me and I would fall, or like I couldn't really walk up the stairs without taking a break, and like I would always forget that I couldn't do that. Or, you know, I couldn't stay up until 11 p.m. I had to go to sleep because my body literally couldn't handle it. I mean, the chemo was still very active in my body, but I wasn't getting it. So I was still feeling the side effects, going through it. I was going into the Jimmy Fund Clinic twice a week just for check-ins. I would sometimes get like blood transfusions, whatever I needed. So it was a really weird time where I still felt like I was sick, but I was also, you know, reacclimating to school too. I mean, I missed school for all that time, and luckily I ended up getting approved to kind of just leave all those credits I missed out and be able to graduate on time. But I did have to make up a lot of school. I remember when I went back to school the first day, I like walked in to the caf and everyone was at lunch, and I remember like literally it felt like I was like a famous person. Like everyone was just like looking at me. And part of me was kind of like, oh, this is kind of cool, but then it wasn't.
Yeah. And
that next month, like, I swear I've never in my life had more friends. Like every single person I knew, and it was amazing, and the support was incredible, but it was really weird because I didn't really know who actually wanted to like be friends with. Like I didn't know if it was real or not. And a lot of my friends, and I don't blame them for this at all, but would kind of tiptoe around me, like, and I don't blame them. I would have no idea how to act either. But it was really uncomfortable for me because I just wanted everyone to treat me normally, and no one was. And I also was behind. Like, I kind of realized, like, life went on just because mine stopped. Like, the world kept going. So I had to kind of realize that, you know, I'm now at a much different place than everyone else. And it was a really, really hard, like, month and a half, where I also hadn't been fully mentally evaluated yet. They wait until you've cleared the chemo to give you a full, like, psychology, like, test or whatever it's called, so they could get you on the right meds. And I didn't have that for a while, and then finally when I got that done, I got diagnosed with PTSD and an anxiety disorder and the ADHD, and I got to be able to start taking medication for it. And once I started to kind of get on medication, I started to get better. But still, you know, physically I had been a dancer my whole life. Like I wasn't like muscular, but I like had a good center, and that was just completely gone. Like I was very confused, and I was also like, I had no hair. Like at this point I didn't have eyebrows or eyelashes. I was trying to like be normal, and it just didn't feel normal for me, and it was just a really, really difficult time. I started experiencing panic attacks too, which were really scary for me because I had never dealt with that before. It was also a really hard time, I think, for my parents because they were really obviously worried and you know, nervous about it, but they kind of just had to let me, you know, experience it. And my mom, luckily, through that time still wasn't working, so she could kind of still be taking care of me. It was a really tough initial transition. It was really difficult for me, and I think I also had no one to relate to at the time. I had an amazing friend, Nick, who was also going through chemo, but we could never meet because we like mutually knew each other. We both got treated at Children's at the same time, same doctors, same nurses. But he lived a few towns over from me, and we had like mutual friends. And so he was the only person that I really like could go to, and we would just like send each other paragraphs back and forth. And other than that, like I didn't know anyone that had gone through what I had gone through. And so it was really like just a confusing time for me that was full of just like, I remember every morning, like sometimes too, I would just like wake up and be like, oh my God, I literally just had cancer. Like it's a crazy thing to try and wrap your head around, and I honestly don't think I still have even wrapped my head around it. But like I was trying to like understand what had just happened to me, and I just couldn't, like at all. So it was a really tough, transition. Yeah, it was not a great time for me, to say the least. But yeah, and then after that period of time, it was when I went to my prom. We had our prom in March for some reason.
We have our junior prom in March too.
Yeah, it's the worst thing ever. It was like cold and rainy. But we had our prom, and I don't really know what happened. Some reason, like, prom was like the turning point for me. I think it was because it was the first time that I felt normal. Like, I told my oncologist 2 things, like, in September. I was like, I want to go to my prom, and I want to get my driver's license. That's it. And so she somehow let me get behind a wheel in October. When I went home for those 2 days, I got booked for my driver's test. I hadn't driven in months. I don't even think I could, like, operate. I don't even know what I did, but I remember I, like, got in the car, and I think, the guy saw me, and, I didn't have hair, and I was very visibly weak, and my dad had to help me walk to the car, so he literally just had me, like, drive around the parking lot and come back. I didn't have to do anything, and he just gave me my license. And then I wanted to go to prom. Those were the 2 things I wanted to do. That was it. And so when I went to my prom, I was like, okay, like, I felt really, really normal for the first time. And I think that's also too when physically, like, I was a lot stronger. I, felt like I started to get, like, color back. Like, I felt like I was so, like, just, like, pale and, like, I'm sad. And I finally started to, like, feel okay again. And then after prom, I consider it, like, my manic episode, but not actually. But for the next, I want to say, like, 6 months, I was, like, unstoppable. I felt so, like, just kind of, like, free. Like, I had such this incredible perspective on life now. And I was like, wow, like, this is really amazing that this just happened to me. And I'm here, and I'm okay, and I'm well. And so I had no limits for those next 6 months, in a good way and a bad way. And I'm so grateful that my parents kind of just, like, let me have my moment, but I was doing crazy shit. Like, it was kind of crazy, but it was so fun. And it was, like, the period of time in my life where I could just live again, and I was strong enough to do it, and I finally felt normal. That summer, I was doing summer school to make up for it, but I wasn't working. So, like, I would go to school, and then I had, like, all this time, and I felt very just, like, liberated to be able to, like, be living. And I was grateful for every single moment of my day. Like, I would walk outside and, like, feel the sun, and, like, I would be so grateful for that. And when you think like that, your days are just that much better. And so I was like, I don't think there will ever be a time in my life where I will be as happy as I was in that period of time, because I was so just, like, I don't even know how to describe it, because it was just, for me, felt like I had gone through this awful thing, and finally I was like, now it's my time to, like, reclaim my life back. And I definitely did. But yeah, it was really hard at first, but then it got better. It did. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
How was senior year of high school then?
Senior year of high school was weird for me. I think I enjoyed it. Like, I had a great, amazing senior year. But I think that's when the, like, I don't care, or, like, I'm just going to do whatever mindset kind of started. I started to realize, okay, now that I'm becoming normal again, I have normal limits. Like, and when I say, like, that, I mean, like, at my school, we had a very kind of, like, strict, like, school in the sense, like, you couldn't leave without, like, getting a call from your parents saying that you can exit. Like, it was very intense with that, but I could just, like, walk out whenever I wanted to. I didn't actually have to be in class if I didn't want to. Every absence that I had was excused. And that was, you know, I had a medical 504. So it was, like, a legal thing where it was, like, I think at the end of senior year, I had, like, 55 dismissals. Like, I would just walk out. I'd, like, say bye to the dismissal lady, like, walk out, leave, go to Starbucks, come back, skip this class because I didn't feel like going, go sit in my car. Like, I did whatever I wanted to, and it started to catch up with me, because senior year, I could still do that if I wanted to, but now I had classes to go to. When I would go to school when I was a junior, I was doing online school in a separate room. So I wasn't going to classes. I went to gym, which was ironic because I couldn't do it, because I wasn't, like, able to do that. And then I would go to health class, and because those were, like, electives, and those were the only 2 classes I would go to. And then the rest of the school day, I would just be sitting in the library doing my online school. So I would sit through, like, all the lunch blocks, hang out with people. Like, I was not doing my online school. Like, and then senior year rolled around, and I actually had classes, and I realized I couldn't just do that. And so I still had a lot of freedom, but I had to be a little bit more diligent about it. And, like, I actually had homework that had due dates, and, you know, I could still get out of things if I wanted to, but it wasn't as easy to just kind of, like, be free range. So it was a weird adjustment for me to be, you know, on a normal school schedule, but I had a really good senior year. At least the fall was, like, first semester or whatever was really, I had a great time. I think for a lot of people, senior year is kind of a time where everyone just kind of comes together. Like, no one's like, oh, this is my friend group. It's like everyone's just kind of friends, and it was just a really positive time in my life. And then I kind of started to struggle a little bit, you know, when, like, January, February came around, because I had gotten into BC, and I kind of, for a while, didn't want to come here. It's kind of like a family school, and so I really was hesitant. And I had gotten into BC, and I don't know, I just kind of started to feel at the time I also started taking a medication that kind of messed with me a little bit, and a side effect I had was just a lot of, like, mental health problems, so I was struggling a lot with that through it, and that was really hard. But then, you know, after that period of time, you know, when it became summer, I kind of was like, it hit that I was actually going to college. Like, that was never something I saw for myself. I always thought, like, I was going to be so behind in school, like, I was never going to be able to go to a college, let alone BC. So it was a lot of emotions for me my senior year. I originally started, like, really enjoyed it, but then I realized, like, real life is still happening. And so I think that's really when I became, like, I don't consider myself normal, but, like, that's when I started really living a normal life, was senior year. And it was weird for me to, like, have structure to my day and not have I used to have doctor's appointments, like, 3 times a week, and, like, I didn't have that anymore. And it was kind of weird for me to adjust. And mind you, at this time, I hated my hair. This was the time, and I had a really gorgeous wig that I wore, and I miss it every day. Like, it was I love her. I miss her. She was amazing to me. But I ended up donating her to a girl who couldn't afford a wig. And then, so I was now, like, my hair was in this, like, really awkward stage of growing out, where it was like, okay, you're not, like, I don't know, it was just weird for me. I was not comfortable with it. It was really weird for me to now start feeling like I was normal again, but I still had short hair. It was, like, that one thing that I just couldn't shake from, like, this whole experience. And then I ended up getting extensions in my hair, and then that kind of helped in the transition period. But I was still like very torn. It's like kind of a hard thing to go from, you know, one identity to another. And I also at the time was trying to figure out how much of my story and my life I wanted to share, and also was still trying to work through everything I had been through. And it was still really hard for me. Like, that fall of senior year was like the 1 year from like my diagnosis, like that period of time. And like my PTSD really just kind of took over in that period of time. And like the seasons changing, like I couldn't even walk outside, like the smell, like everything triggered me. So I was still dealing with it, but I was also normal. So it was still a weird transition for me, but I did enjoy senior year. I think everyone to some extent enjoys senior year because it's such a time where you just kind of, or at least from what I experienced, was I was just kind of really grateful for like the community that I was around, the support I received. And it's just a time where a lot of people come together, like going to everyone's graduation party. Like that was such a fun time where like everyone would just come together and like celebrate. And I really enjoyed that. Like I really loved that part of senior year. But it was also really hard for me to enjoy that because I still felt very connected to that part of me that was sick. But yeah.
Then you got to college.
I did, yes.
And how was that?
I think when I went to BC orientation, the friend that I had when I was sick, he passed away 2 days before I came to orientation. And that was horrible for me because he was the only person that I could relate to. And he passed away like suddenly. And I had to leave BC orientation to go to his funeral. So I think it was like Sunday to Tuesday. I came for Sunday, and then Monday I left midday, drove up, went to his funeral, and then came back. And so my first impression of BC, I had kind of felt like I just wasn't fully there. Like I really loved orientation, but it was hard because I was, you know, that was happening at the same time. And so it was very conflicted. I felt a lot of survivor's guilt, a lot of just like mixed emotions. But then, you know, obviously came to BC, and I didn't have the most amazing first semester here. I, you know, was still, my immune system wasn't great. I got sick like you would not even believe. I had mono, pneumonia, and strep throat at the same time, and it wouldn't go away the whole time. So I was trying to balance moving to college, being a brand new freshman, while also I was so sick. And I'm, you know, in nursing, so it wasn't an easy school transition, especially for someone like me who I wasn't like super studious in high school. Like I didn't really like not work hard. I worked hard, but I just like was kind of free range with it. Like I didn't take it too seriously, and so it was like a lot for me while I was trying to do all of that. And also I was so sick. I was home a lot. I lived on Newton. It was hard for me first semester, but then I had an amazing second semester here where I really like fell in love with BC. Like that was kind of my moment. I enjoyed my first semester. Like I had a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it. I met amazing people, but it was not, looking back on it, like I don't know how I did it. I don't know how I got through that period of time. But yeah, I mean, I'm sure you can attest to the fact that it's not easy coming to like a school like BC where I feel like it's so, at least for me, like the school part of it was very big transition for me. So that was not easy, but you know, I've gotten used to it now, but at the time it was not easy.
You chose to study nursing.
Yes, I did.
Why did you choose to study nursing?
I know it sounds really cringy, but I always say like it kind of chose me. I think I had 3 nurses when I was sick who were like I genuinely think that these 3 women completely saved my life. Like, I don't think I would have survived if it weren't for them. They each just had their own thing, like, reason why, but I guess long story short, they just were their, like, just empathy and compassion and love that they had for me was so selfless and so intense and real that I don't ever remember like choosing nursing. I just kind of knew, like, after I had met them and they had cared for me, I was like, I want to literally do exactly what you do, and I want to be able to like sit by people in these moments, and I want to, work with kids who are going through cancer, and I want to look at them and help them feel less afraid because I've been there. And I thought a lot about when I was sick, what it would have been for me if I saw someone taking care of me who had gone through what I had gone through, what that would have been like for me. I can't even imagine how much that would have changed my life, because you just see someone who moved past it and you have hope. And I never really had a moment where I was like, I'm doing nursing. It was just like, I don't even know how to describe it. It was like, oh, I'm doing it. Like, I never decided. For the longest time, I actually thought I was gonna like do cosmetology. Like, that was like what I loved. I loved makeup, and I wanted to do that like for my whole life. But like, after I was sick, I just was like, nope, like, this is what I'm doing. Like, those 3 women, I got their handwriting tattooed on me. Like, they are my reason, and they just, I can't even describe how incredible I felt when they would just walk into a room. Like, I was just completely, like, I'm like speechless when I even talk about it, because they're so amazing, and they completely changed my life, and they are the most inspiring people, and I couldn't imagine doing anything else. They just really, really inspired me, like, to this other level of, like, it's not even motivation. It was just like, how could I not do this now? Like, giving back to the community that completely saved me. And I also think, too, there's something really unique about going through something that I went through and then choosing this path. And I think that idea just really, like, kind of launched me into this whole thing of doing nursing. And now it's not obviously easy in the slightest, but it's so rewarding. And, like, I would never do anything else, ever. Yeah.
What do you love about life right now?
That's a great question. I think one thing I've just been so grateful for is my, like, nursing community. I have the most amazing nursing friends and people in the program. Like, every single person in that program is truly incredible, and it's just such this different kind of element to school. Like, we, go to hospital, like, our classes are going to the hospital, and we, care for people who are in their last moments, and we sit by them, and we're with them, and we take care of them, and then we come back here. And that is the hardest thing I've ever done. Like, going from that and then coming back here. And, like, the other day, I had a patient who had a very poor prognosis, and he just completely touched me. And then I came back here, and I was, like, going out to dinner with my friends, and I was having a fit over what top I was going to wear. And I was just thinking to myself, like, what am I doing? Like, why am I worried about this right now when I just literally, this man that I just took care of today, doesn't know, like, how much longer he's going to be able to be here. And that's a really confusing thing to try and understand. And the community that we've built in nursing and in my cohort is just, like, so incredible. And they, you know, obviously I have like my close friends, but like everyone is just really so supportive. It's like, I feel like people sometimes think like it's a competition in nursing, but you know, they took away the curve in nursing for a reason. Like, this is it's such a team sport. Like, we all help each other so much. We lift each other up. And they are just really what I've been so grateful for in these past few months. Like, I don't know what I would do without that group of girls and 4 or 5 guys. They're amazing. They're just so amazing. And that's really been something that I've been very grateful for. I think as we've started clinical this semester, we've all gotten a lot closer. We also went on a retreat together, all the nursing class, and it was on the beach, the same place we do 48 hours, and it snowed, and it was just like the most incredible like experience to just like be there and be isolated with those. Like, it was just life altering moment where I really realized like I can do this and we're all in this together. So I think that's what I've been most grateful for over these past few weeks, is just like that I have that. I'm so grateful that I feel like BC has really fostered that and you know, given us the space to all kind of come together and like not work against each other. It's just been so amazing. It really has.
Yeah. You say you're grateful for that. I recently had a conversation with a friend about how I think that to be grateful, there must be an object to that verb. So I'm grateful to, or I'm grateful to who or what. So like, who are you owing this gratitude to?
Well, I think it's a few things. I think it's my 3 friends in nursing, Skylar, Bursabelle, and Josie. Those 3 girls are kind of my like, I feel like they're like my sisters. Them 3 specifically, but I think it really also too is just like BC. Like, I don't think that this is necessarily something that everyone experiences, because BC really put it upon us to all. I mean, that retreat is a credit. Like, they made us go there. They made us all get super close. And I think a lot of us resisted it, but, you know, BC was like, you have to do it. It's a credit. And so I think it's really BC. And I also think it's my nurses, too. They are, like, the who of what I'm grateful for, because they're why I, like, continue to do it every day. Like, when I'm so burnt out and I don't want to, like, I think about that and I just, like, can still do it. But I do think it's BC. I think that's what I would say, because they really just try and push for all of us to become a family, and we really have, like, truly.
What is your purpose?
I think my purpose in my life as a whole, I think, is to help kids who are going through cancer. That is, like, when I think of purpose, that's what I think about, because I think that's the area that I can make the most difference. And people always ask me, if you could change, like, what happened to you, like, would you? And the immediate answer is absolutely not. I would never want to give up who I am now and what I can offer the world. And all the time when I was younger, that question of what is my purpose would confuse me, because I didn't know. And immediately after I was sick and I started into nursing school, I just kind of knew my purpose is to completely care for and give to these people. And it's just the most special feeling where I'm able to. And it's so fulfilling. But I really do think my purpose is to not just help kids or people who are sick and going through that, but to also inspire people. I think my story is very unique, and I didn't necessarily choose right away to share it so openly. It wasn't easy, but the more I did it, I saw how much it changed people sometimes, and sometimes it didn't, but most times people were very grateful that I was able to be vulnerable, and that is so rewarding too. And so I think it's just inspiring people. It's so hard, I think, for me to not just give back, you know, and give to the world, because I'm so grateful that I got to be here. And, you know, there's a reason that I, you know, lived through that. And I think I owe it to whoever, to just give back and to be inspiring and to encourage people. You know, when you look so closely to death like that, you have this unique ability to truly understand what matters. And I realized over the years that you can't just like tell people. It doesn't work like that. You know, no one's going to be like, just because I say this, they're going to be like, oh yeah, that's a great, no. But there's a way that I can just share my story, and people can, you know, take whatever they want from it. They don't have to take anything from it, but just leave it up to them to kind of choose how they want to interpret, you know, this whole story. And the notion that I've now decided to like take this on, and to, because it's not easy, you know. I still have PTSD, and there's still things I'm struggling with. Like going from patient to nurse is not easy, but yeah, I think my purpose really is to inspire and to give back to the incredible community that completely saved my life.
I love what you just said, and I completely agree about how you can't tell people things. You can only share your story and act in the way that you would like to see others act and live, and I completely resonate with that. I think it is really, first, the power of a story, and clearly you have an incredible, powerful story to share. Yeah. And I think everyone does, and
100%.
to different degrees, right? And you know, here on out, or in general, like, it is our job to tell our story, and clearly you are like walking the talk, and so that is what we can control, and how we want to see the world changed in the way we want to see our lives fulfilled with purpose.
100%.
And the way we want to, you know, impact the world.
I completely agree, and I think just as much as I've began to share my story, I love listening to other people's stories. I think it's like equally as fulfilling for me to tell my story as it is to listen to other people's. And like, I learn from people all the time, every day, and like, I'm so imperfect, it's not funny. Like, it's hilarious how not perfect I am and how much I don't know things. But what I do know is what happened and what my story is. And so that's what I choose to share, instead of being like, you know, I think you should be grateful for everything. You know, it doesn't work like that. You just have to let people are going to do what they want to do. So you just have to be open and allow for them to kind of choose how they want to do it. You can't control people.
Yeah. Awesome. What are you looking forward to for the rest of this semester and for the summer?
Well, I honestly think I get to a point every like April, and I don't even know if it's just since coming to BC, but even in high school, where I'm kind of just like ready for a change, or not a change, but you know, like, I love BC, I love it here, I love all the people I'm around, but I get to a point where I'm like, you do the same thing every day and all the time, it gets to a point where I'm just done. So I'm definitely feeling that right now, so I'm excited to get through finals, and kind of not move out. Like, I'm not excited to move out. I'm obviously so sad, but I'm ready. And then this summer, I live on Martha's Vineyard for the summers, and I'm working at a hospital. My first like real, like, doing 12-hour shifts, night shifts, that type of thing. And I'm really excited. I know it's going to be so hard and very difficult for me, but I'm really excited to kind of just jump into it. And obviously, like, the Vineyard is one of my true, like, happy places. I completely fell in love with it, I think, really last year. And I, like, cannot wait to be back and, like, just be... I don't live with my family over the summer, so I live at my uncle's house. But this year I'm living in housing for the hospital. So So I'm going to be like living by myself. My best friend Josie, who's in nursing too, she lives on the vineyard full time. So I get to like be with her and you know, just kind of be in a different space. And I think being in the vineyard is so fun for me because it's so different. It's so new every year. Every year has been so different for me. And like, I love also like Andover, my home. Like I love it there too, but it's like I need something new. And this is like a real, you know, job that I'm doing, and I'm excited to just kind of like jump into it. Like I'm really ready, I think, to like stop doing school like and just get into that. Like I'm ready for the end of the year, and like I'm ready to be home. I miss my family. I just kind of like I'm ready for that. But what are you doing for the summer?
Well, that sounds super exciting. I'm excited for you.
Thank you.
Full circle moment, I'll be an orientation leader here.
Oh my gosh. Yay.
Your brother was an orientation
He was.
leader? Yeah, right. I remember you saying that.
I'm so happy for you.
I remember well, thank you. I remember during our coffee chat last semester, I brought that up, that I'm thinking about applying. And that's when you mentioned your brother did it, he loved it, and you've heard great things. So, yeah, so I'm doing that. And so I'll do that, and then in the off time, I'll be doing a consulting internship in Boston.
Oh, that's so exciting.
So it's very exciting. I'm happy to be here, and it's going to be super fun. I'm going to be working a lot because it's Sunday through Tuesday for orientation, and then that internship from Wednesday to Friday. So like Saturday is my only day off. I won't be home like at all this summer, which more and more is kind of like breaking my heart. I'll be home for like 5 days in May and 2 weeks in August. So definitely missing family.
My brother absolutely adored it. I mean, he did it both years.
Yeah.
He loved being an orientation leader, I think, more than anything he did at BC. He really, really loved it. But the schedule's not weird, but it's like you're working Tuesday or Sunday to Tuesday, and then you have like this off time where you're still doing stuff, but you have a little bit more kind of like freedom.
Yeah.
But that's so exciting. I'm so happy for you. That's really awesome.
Yeah. So
you're going to be a great orientation leader.
Thank you.
For sure.
Yeah, I'm really excited. Sweet.
Amazing.
Wonderful. It's almost great timing because it's around 2, and that's when I said I'm free till. Do you have any final remarks?
Not really. I'm really grateful that you have this amazing like platform to let people just kind of share their stories. Like, it's so awesome because I feel like people don't always have the space to, and you're really creating space, and I think it's amazing. I've always admired people who are so good at like listening, and you really are great at like allowing people to tell their story. So yeah, thank you. It's really awesome.
Thanks,
You're doing
Paige.
great things.
That's really encouraging.
Of
I really
course.
appreciate that. Seriously. Sweet. At the end of every episode, I love to pray for my guest. Could I just take a moment to pray for you, Paige?
Of course.
Okay, awesome. Let us pray. Dear God, thank you for this Tuesday afternoon with Paige. God, that you see Paige and all that she has gone through, and the way that you've brought such beautiful fruit and story and impact out of this. God, that I am just so inspired and encouraged by her perspective and the ways that she has carried on through her life and taking meaning out of her experience and transforming that into purpose. And God, you just really see her and love her, and I know that for sure. God, I just hope that she would experience your love in new ways as she continues on through this summer and the rest of our time here at BC. God, continue to use our stories to impact the lives of others, to just love on others well. We thank you for the power of a story. We thank you that we're able to share these with others and have these types of conversations. God, would you bless this day, our Easter breaks, the rest of the school year, our summers. God, once again, thank you for this time. Thank you for this conversation. Lord, I thank you, love you. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. That was beautiful. Thank you.
Of course. Any final remarks?
Final remarks? No? I'm good.
Great. What are you up to the rest of the day?
I have actually fittingly a final exam.
Nice.
My competency where we do our skills and they watch us. And it's stressful, but I'd rather do this type of test than a written test. So I feel pretty good. And then I'm heading home tonight, which is awesome. I cannot wait to sleep in my own bed and take a shower and just eat food that isn't BC dining. I can't wait. So I'm once I'm done with this test, I'll feel more excited to go home and to have this break. But I think right now I'm kind of just in go mode. So.
Yeah, I think this is the first time I've actually felt homesick in my entire life.
Wow,
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Well, I'm glad you're going home.
Yeah, me too.
I know. I feel like since I'm so close, I don't typically feel homesick. But there are some times where I'm I just need to go home.
Yeah.
And this is one of those times.
Sweet. Great.
Yes, amazing.
Amazing. Well, thank you everyone for tuning in. This has been a wonderful conversation. Again,
Yes,
I really
thank you.
appreciate this time, Paige.
Of course.
And we will catch you all in the next episode.
Amazing.
Wonderful.
That was so fun.